What single experience in your life most inspired you to go into the life of conservative politics?
I don't look at it that way, it just kind of happened. I grew up, I'm 44, so I grew up becoming politically aware with a Democratic father and a Republican mother under Carter, and saw what didn't work. And I saw my father actually grit his dentures and vote for Ronald Reagan, and I saw what worked. So I'm old enough that I could only vote for Reagan once. But as a Midwesterner, it was a very practical experience to see what didn't work with the Democratic Party and what did work with a conservative Republican president.
So you mentioned that your father was a Democrat. I know you are a conservative congressman from a fairly liberal district. How has that affected your leadership?
I would argue my district's not liberal. My district culturally conservative, as my father was. This was back when he could be a Truman Democrat and strong national defense, very culturally conservative on moral issues. And yet he was a union member. My parents both were. They were teachers. And the district in many ways is very similar to them. And what happens is, obviously the Republican Party had its difficulties. And the district tends to be very practical, so they wanted to see what would happen under the Democrats. But what they're increasingly finding out is that this is not the party, the Democratic Party of my father. This is a far left Democratic Party, especially its leadership. And that the conservative Democrats are very few and far between. In many ways, it's becoming more like a European socialist party than it is like a traditional Democratic American party.
Your wife is a nurse, as I understand.
A registered nurse.
Registered nurse. How has that medical background in your home affected your stance on medical care or the healthcare debate today?
Well, my wife works in the neonatal intensive care unit. It was her first job at Sinai Hospital, which has since closed and moved. And she now works in the birthing center at St. Mary Mercy Hospital. So what she does is she tends to make sure that I know that there are providers on the front lines and that what Washington might think may or may not work is usually not going to be the most beneficial prescription for healthcare in America. So she helps keep me grounded on the day-to-day reality of helping to keep people well, helping to keep people on a preventative track. I think that that's very important. The other part of it is I get very little sympathy at home when I do stupid things and injure myself.
Who is your greatest political hero?
I don't think of people as heroes, I think of people as people. And I think that that's generally how you have to view it. What did they do? What didn't they do?
Who has most inspired you as a political figure?
Well, the picture on my wall is Lenin, the Beatle, not the Bolshevik. So you generally get a sense of where my head's at. I mean, there's a whole bigger world in politics. Politics is a part of life. Politics is not life.
How are you using your influence in the House Ways and Means Committee to make paying taxes easier for Americans?
I appreciate the assumption that I have influence in the House, especially as a Republican these days. And I don't know that it's my job to make it easier to pay taxes. We'd like our first focus is so that people pay fewer taxes into the government more properly prioritizes and spends people's money on things that the country really needs, as opposed to a lot of the waste that we continue to see, or the advance of the state into people's lives through the use of the appropriation process, through the spending. Because as Ronald Reagan pointed out, Americans have an expectation that their money will be spent both efficiently and justly by their servants in Congress, and we are not seeing that.
After years of the left trying to squelch all discussion of morality in politics, we have a president now who constantly brings the issue of morality into the healthcare debates. What do you think this new focus on morality could mean for national dialogue?
Well, there's two problems with that. One is that no one leaves their morality at the door when they enter any walk of life. It's what the left tries to do is they have you accept their agenda, which they paint as amoral, when in reality every decision the government makes has a moral dimension because it involves human consequence. So to say that you must be amoral when you go into government, I would think that's one of the worst things anybody would want, because it's a stereotypical politician is they only care about themselves and they act amorally. So I would argue that all they're really trying to do is take a different moral view and shunt it aside so that theirs will prevail in the public square. Secondly, the president in his speech made two very interesting points that I fundamentally disagreed with. He said that we all came here to shape the future. I did not come here to shape the future, i.e. your future. I came here to get government off your back so that you can shape your future without Washington intruding on it. The other thing the president said that I want to make sure people understand is he said that the greatest moments in America are when you cede your liberty and your sovereignty and your property to the federal government for purposes of redistribution or other social engineering, I fundamentally disagree with that. The greatest moments in American history are when we have expanded liberty to ourselves and to others throughout the world. That is what the United States was founded upon. That is what the United States does. And as a revolutionary experiment in human freedom and self-government, the more we try to portray our greatest moments as giving government more power over ourselves, we forget that the country was founded with a subservient government and a sovereign people.
What does the Constitution mean to you?
It's a recognition of the rights we have from God. The government cannot interfere with. It's the whole purpose of the revolution was to take a king from the top of the social stratus and put the government at the bottom beneath the sovereign people. That's why we have a republican form of government.